Well, hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Ultimate Wellness Group Transformation Tuesday. We are thankful that you decided to spend some of your Tuesday evening with us. God say the same, getting some news that you can use. Of course, today is part two of answering the questions from the Saviours Day presentation from myself, Dr. Mariam Farrakhan, and Brother Tariq Muhammad. Not always sure which one's going to show up, but y'all will see in a minute. But we're going to get back to your questions and the answers to your questions because, of course, we have dedicated ourselves to get all the way through them. There were 108 altogether. And of course, we combined some of them so we won't have to go through every single one of the 108. But God said the same, we'll be finished today, and we might have to go to next week to finish them all. But again, we are dedicated to answering all your questions. And those of you who have asked very good questions as we have been doing these shows, and we don't always have time to get to them, we will answer those on the last show as well. So without anything further, let's get started. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I further bear witness that God came in the person of Master Father Muhammad and taught one from among us. Of course, that man in that book that you see behind me, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who wrote How to Eat to Live, and How to Eat to Live is the foundation of this show. And neither one of them left us alone. They left us with a friend, a guide, a counselor in a very difficult and dark time. I'm speaking of, pray that you all can hear me. I did all that without my earphones in. I'm speaking none other than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, in their names. I greet you in the words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. Y'all let me know if the picture and the sound is okay. A couple shout outs, Damon X. Johnson, Daisy Muhammad, and Catherine Muhammad. Wa alaikum salam to you all. So we're not going to delay at all. We're going to go ahead and bring in our wonderful guest, Dr. Mariam Farrakhan. Can you hear me, my sister?
Yes, sir. I can hear you just fine. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Praise be to Allah.
Praise be to Allah. Gregory Brundage and Brenda Muhammad. Wa alaikum salam. Anything you want to say to open us up, Dr. Farrakhan?
I would just like to say that it is always an honor, and it is always an honor to be able to come onto your platform, to be amongst family, to be amongst the believers, and just our community, so that we can get back to the right way, so that we can be better in mind, body, and spirit. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for taking a little time out your busy schedule, sister. It's always a blessing and a wonderful joy for me to have you and your wisdom and the friendship that we have been developing over years. So, of course, it's always a wonderful thing. Yolanda X. McElvey said, everything sounds good. Walaikum salam. Thank you very much. Okay, so without any further delay, let's get straight into it. Sister Dr. Mariam, we're going to start with number 60, correct?
Yes, sir. We're going to start with question number 60. I'm going to pull it up right now. So
I got it.
Okay.
I got it for you. Okay, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're going to do 60 and 62 together because they were similar. So 60 is, what about long-term fasting, like 14 days or more? Any info on the pros or cons will be helpful. And then 62 was, I take that back. I'm sorry. That does not go with them.
Well, 62 was just talking about pregnant women who are unable to fast and
Right.
how we can rid toxins from our body. So I'll first start with number 60. Hopefully you all can hear me well. I'm currently in the car. So
Sound clear to me.
Okay, so once I'm in a stable environment, I'll take the picture off and you all be able to see me and we'll interface like normal. Okay, so question number 60, it was dealing with long-term fasting, 14 days or more, and I was studying How to Eat to Live by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and when he talks specifically about fasting, and I believe it was in chapter 6 where he speaks specifically about fasting once a month, 3 days, 4 days, or whatever length of time you are able to go without food without harming yourself. And I think that that is really the key, is you have to be in tune with your body, because if you're
That's right.
not in tune, then you can end up causing more damage or more harm than you are good. So of course there's a benefit from to fasting, because you're ridding yourself of all of the toxins, and we know if we're eating 2 and 3 or 6 times a day sometimes, and we're eating a lot of garbage, then we definitely need to purify ourselves as best as possible. But I would say, according to what I understand of the teachings, is you have to, one, do it in moderation, and one, be very conscious of where you are and what your body is able to withstand. I wouldn't, of course, suggest doing 14 or 15 or even more days, or even, a week or two, without building your body up to that.
Yes, ma'am. Excellent response. Only addition for me would be, there are, I would say, conclusions that we can come to after reading How to Eat to Live. It's not always that we can take the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's words and say what he meant, but we can say what our conclusion is after studying that. And so when you think about what Dr. Mariam just said about fasting 2 or 3 days per month, and then he said, if you eat one meal every other day, you'll never be sick. If you eat one meal every 3 days, you'll never be, I'm sorry. If you eat one meal every other day, you'll be sick maybe once every 4 or 5 years. If you eat one meal every 3 days, you'll never be sick. And he talks about eating 1 or 2 meals a week would put you into potentially 1,000 years. And so that is evidence, when we understand how the body can live that long, that you're producing a lot more stem cells. And so the person that asked about long extended fast, like 14 days or longer, the more you fast, the more your body is in that capability of regeneration that I spoke of during Saviours Day versus repair. We can repair every day, but when we want to regenerate a body, when you want to regenerate an organ, regenerate a tissue so that you don't have the after effects of an injury or the after effects of deterioration, then that is the conclusion that I come to, is as he tells us to eat less and less, we live longer. He did say that in book 2. The less you eat, the longer you live. And that is because with all of the recent studies over the last few years, they have been finding that after a certain number of hours, usually about 16 to 18 hours, our body starts producing ketones, which is the fuel when we don't have like something readily there for us to break down and absorb. And in that state of the body being in ketones is when we have the best ability to regenerate and repair and rejuvenate and do all the things in the body that keeps us able to function at a much more efficient place. And the last part of that, I would say, is on the sister's question about being pregnant. It's a lot of work for a woman to produce a baby. It's a lot of work for a woman to breastfeed. And I think that's the reason why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that they should not be forced to eat 1 meal a day. They can if they choose to. But he said they should eat 2 meals a day because it's a lot of energy that it takes to produce that milk, produce that baby. And you want to make sure that you have enough energy to keep your body alive at the same time you're producing a baby and producing that milk that keeps that baby alive. So those will be my answers to that. A couple more shout outs, and then I'm going to come right back to you, sister. Kenny X. Davis, Khalila Muhammad, Charles X. Moore, Roderick Barnes, Sister Queen, I am student, Eugenia Marie. Wa alaikum salam to you all, and thank you for coming in. What were you about to say, sister?
I was going to add on to, I didn't even touch on question 62, but you started it, and you were saying that the messenger taught that the sisters should eat at least 2 meals while they're pregnant, correct?
Yes.
And so I was reading up and on this, and looking for different ways and trying to better understand how we as women, especially, well, not me because I'm not expecting, but for women who who are expecting, and knowing that the body, like you said, it is so much work that goes into and so much energy that is required to make a new human being. A lot of times the thought process is, oh, I'm eating for two, so I need to eat more. When reality is unnecessary. If you eat 2 good meals a day and are eating quality food, then you would be doing so much more service than disservice if you were eating 6, 7 times a day and snacking all throughout the day. So when the
Right.
sister asked the question about ridding yourselves of toxins, of course we get back to what the messenger has taught us by a aligned person, saying that if you are limiting what you are eating throughout the day, ultimately you're not introducing those toxins into your body, right? Or at
Right.
least you're not introducing as many. I think that's a better way to say it.
Right.
So
Right.
if a woman is pregnant and she's trying to eliminate toxins in her body, then I would definitely reiterate what you're saying as far as eating 2 meals a day and not eating smaller meals or snacking throughout the day. In addition to that, exercise and sweating, those are 2 really big ways that you can eliminate toxins, regardless if you're pregnant or not. We're talking
That's
about
right.
the the circulatory system and how blood is moving throughout your body and how that allows toxins to be removed. So I think it's really important that exercising, sweating, drinking a lot of water, if you can add maybe a little lemon to it, those are all ways that a woman can safely eliminate toxins in the body.
Yes, ma'am. And then of course, the navy bean, like Brother Tariq says, don't sleep on that navy bean. And then the whole milk, making sure, of course, that you get it from the right source, are
Yes,
two
sir.
foods that I have studied that help pull toxins out as well. And what else? I was about to say something else. But anyway, um,
I think the best thing is eating properly. That
yes.
really is key.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. I know what I was going to say. Excuse me, sister. Look, I was on the internet this week, y'all, just doing my research, and I ran across this guy that was talking about the benefits of fasting, the pros and the cons, the truth and the facts. And I just wanted to mention this, and just kind of give an example. Dr. Farrakhan and I have talked about this before, about our studies, and then the things that we study in school. We get to go into a clinic or go into a hospital and watch that reality either be true or false. And so this guy was saying that it is not true that the body rids more toxins when you're fasting. And that's just an absolute lie. There have been plenty studies that I have read, as well as things that I have seen in my career, where people will take certain medications and we can test their urine for the metabolites. What is the metabolite? Something that went to the liver broke it down or adjusted it. And then after the liver does that, it says, okay, this is water soluble or fat soluble. If it's water soluble, we're going to urinate it out. If it's fat soluble, we're going to defecate it out. And so there are many studies that prove that we do increase how many toxins we release when we're going longer periods of time in between eating. And when we go many days without eating, we're really getting to a point where deep toxins that are deep in the tissues will start to come out. And so your point was wonderful, Dr. Farrakhan, and I pray that, again, brothers and sisters, you really have to find a good place of information, because when I go on the internet, YouTube, social media, and look at some of the stuff that's out there, it angers me, because I know there are a lot of people out here trying to do better. And there are just some sources of information that are absolute. They need to be in the garbage. That's why I call them garbage. because they really don't serve you any purpose when these people are telling you mis lies or just coming up with stuff because they heard somebody else say it. Couple more shout outs. Warren F. Muhammad, Tiffany Muhammad, Jerome in the house, Kiera Muhammad. Wa alaikum salam to you all. Good evening, Miss Etta Purcell Hope. Jerome in the house says, is the IB 100 a dietary supplement one would take every so often, or is it used when feeling ill? Wanted to order some. That's something that you take on a regular basis, my bro. You don't wait till you're ill. It should help you from getting ill. But I will touch base on that at the end if we have a chance, okay? Sister Jeanette, wa alaikum salam. Sakina Temp Girl Muhammad. She asked, when fasting, is infused water fine to drink like fresh cucumber and mint in the water? I would say that drinking infused water could interrupt your fasting. And here's why. If you've ever noticed infused water, if you put strawberries, I see sometimes people put cantaloupe and people put like cucumber and other things like that, and you notice that the water doesn't stay clear, you start to see some coloring in the water. And so that literally could be nutrients, sugars, and other things that you're absorbing. I should say that the water is absorbing, or that is coming out and infusing with the water. And then when you drink that, you're absorbing those nutrients. And so when we talk about the benefits of fasting and putting the body in that ketotic state, when it's making ketones, that's because there isn't any available sugar. That's because there isn't really a lot for it to feed from. And I'm sure some people would automatically think, as I'm saying this, well, what about when Muhammad says that we can drink coffee and we can drink tea? Yes, but remember, when he talks about drinking coffee and how to eat to live, he always talks about not emptying the whole sugar bowl into the cup. And so he is giving us supreme knowledge, and we're catching up to the knowledge that he's been giving us since the 30s. And so that's why he said that, because he knew that to put a lot of sugar in your coffee or your tea would probably interrupt with the benefits that would be happening during fast. So be careful. I would say that, I'll be honest that sometimes when I go on extended fast, when I'm fasting for 10 days, 15 days, what I'm going to be doing for the rest of this year, just incrementally increasing my fasting, there are some days where I get so depleted of energy that I will drink some coffee and put quite a bit of sugar in it, or I will get a little bit of juice and something just to maintain myself continuing and not coming off of it. But to get the best out of fasting, you want to keep that to a limited time. But let me just clarify, Sakina, that if you are fasting and you're doing infused water, you're still doing your body great benefits. So I don't want to belittle that. I just wanted to put it in context of what is I think, the perspective that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has given us. Anything to add to that, Sister?
I thought that was an excellent point. And I love how you kind of wrapped it up with the ending saying that, even if you do decide to infuse your water, it is still beneficial. Because I remember on an earlier podcast, we were talking about, natural sugars and things like that, yes, and how fruit is good for you.
That's right.
So it's not that it's bad or anything like that, but I definitely think that you hit that point very well.
Praise be to Allah. I got another one for you. So, any right, walaikum salam, and thank you very much. And Warren F. Muhammad said, is there a way to implement a program of long-term fasting to boost regeneration? Jabril Muhammad, walaikum salam, my brother. That's an excellent question.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I'm going to let you take that one. You have the experience.
Well, I would say, Brother Warren, that the longer you fast, the better when it comes to the reality of regeneration. Because the studies now are saying that we literally start to produce stem cells around 24 hours of fasting. And so, as I've said before, we have to be very astute. Like Sister Dr. Mariam was saying, we have to understand and be in touch and be in communication and pay attention to ourselves, because it's not to me, beneficial to fast, and then you die, right? So we have to always be in touch with what is going on. We have to build to longer and extended fasts. But the studies are saying that the longer you fast, the more stem cells you make. And so think about it. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says for us to fast 2 or 3 days per month. And then at the end of a year, you will only have enough germ to keep you sick 1 hour. Well, that's a lot of stem cells because you are doing what? Reproducing your whole blood system every month. That's what it says in the studies that came out of California and Europe, that a 3-day fast will reproduce your red blood cells, your white blood cells, your plasma cells, which means that how you send information, how you send nutrition, the cells that are rotating in your blood that's part of your immune system are all remade in a 3-day fast. And if we do a 3-day fast every month, then we're doing that every month, which means that every single one of those cells came from what we call a hemato, I'm not going to use those big words, from blood stem cells. So every time we reproduce a blood cell, it came from a stem cell, right? And so I always ask, if we go from a 3-day fast to a 5-day fast, you've already remade your blood in 3 days. So what are you going to remake in 5 days? Something more. 10 days, something more. If you go on 15 or 20-day fast. So the longer you fast, the more regeneration you get, from my understanding, Brother Warren. And so that's why you have heard me talk about doing these extended fasts. I am, just real quickly, so we can get back to the questions. I plan on doing either a 10 or 15 when we come out of Ramadan. And then each month after that, I'm going to do a number of days because I want to end 21 with an afro. It'll be short, but just to show you all what the power of how to eat to live is. So anything you want to add, my sister?
No, sir. You got this. No,
right.
sir.
All right. Well, let's go to 66 then. That's the next question. It is, does the Nation of Islam practice meditation as a means of getting healthy?
What do they mean by do we practice it? Like, is it in our pillars or in our practice, like on a day-to-day basis? Because I mean, I look at prayer as a form of meditation. Yes. So, I mean, I guess it just depends on, what are your thoughts on it, honestly?
No, I thought you brought up an excellent subject, and that is prayer. I mean, I consider prayer meditation as well. I also know that wonderful green book that's behind me over here, the Holy Quran, on many of occasions, it says, for the man or woman that thinks, or to the man or woman that contemplates, or to the man or woman that ponders. And so what Allah is asking us to do, as well as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the minister when they teach us, is to go think about it. You hear the Honorable Elijah Muhammad say that in a lot of his lectures from back in the day. He said, think on this. And so to me, it depends on what a person defines as meditation. But when our teachers tell us to go and think about something, go and ponder something, go look up what I'm telling you about, they're telling us to think and think and think and ponder and meditate and contemplate and just put this in your thought process and see what you come up with. And so I would say that the Nation of Islam absolutely takes meditation in consideration. And when we consider what the minister has put in another set of books that's behind me over here, and that is the study guides, he's always asking us to take things and ponder them. Take this situation that happened with me and apply it to your life. Take this situation that we're learning in the scriptures, like right now we're in Rising Above Emotions into the Thinking of God. And we, for the last couple of weeks, have been talking about putting ourselves in other people's shoes, like putting ourselves in the shoes of Hagar when she was the handmaiden of Abraham's wife, Sarah, right? But she got put out the house. How would you react to that? So that takes time for you to slow down, turn the TV off, put the telephone down, stop conversations and contemplate. What would it be like to be in that situation? And so when it comes to something as profound as how to eat to live, I think we have to do the same thing. How often do you contemplate your health? How long do you ponder how many years you're going to live? How many days in your life do you ponder whether I'm going to wind up like auntie or grandmama or daddy or whoever? And see, if these are the type of things you contemplate, then you'll be more in tune on what do I need to change? What can I do better so that I don't wind up with those problems? Or if I foresee myself living to 175, 250, or whatever it is, then truly you can see that and believe that you can make it. So I pray that we answer that question. Anything, Sister Doctor?
No, sir. I think that was great, honestly. I think the question that you kind of pose back to the individual is it depends on what you believe meditation, or what is your understanding of meditation. I think that's the key to answering that question. But yeah, I think that you answered it right on that. I don't think there's any better way to answer that question personally.
Praise be to Allah. All right, well, let's get to the next one then. That is, what are we, 73? No. Yes, 73. We have, can the panel please reiterate the importance of eating the navy bean for pregnant and nursing women? Go ahead, my sister. I think that's a good one.
Can you hear me pretty well? Because I feel like I'm hearing you a little staticky and choppy.
Oh, is it? Is that better?
No. Give me 5 minutes.
Brothers and sisters, can anybody tell me whether one or both of us are choppy? Yeah, y'all laughing at me by my Afro comment, huh? That's why I played. I see you, Sister Jacqueline. Willie Muhammad. Jabril, are there any potential diet-related links to first degree atrioventricular block? Wow, that's definitely a serious question. It would depend on what the atrioventricular block is from, right? I don't know if some of you remember a brother named Hank Gathers, who played for this California basketball team years ago. And then there was also Len Bias. Len Bias, of course, died because of a heart attack from cocaine. But the guy named Hank Gathers in California had what we call cardiomyopathy, which is when your heart is enlarged and the muscles of the heart are really enlarged and they start to interfere with the functioning. And so an atrioventricular block is a interruption in the signal that's sent out from the heart, right? We have two nodes in the heart that keep it beating at the rate that it does. It's the AV node and the SA node, atrioventricular. And so there's a pulse that comes out of there, right? It's somewhat instructed and it's somewhat independent. And sometimes some of the activity that we can do, like eating the wrong foods or drinking or using drugs or just not being in an activity process of life, not maintaining activity over time, these things can cause problems in your atrioventricular pulse that's coming from that node in the heart. And so, yes, those things can be improved. But again, it will really depend on what caused that person to have that problem. And so I would have to know more information, my brother. They're saying we both sound good.
Oh, perfect. All praise due to Allah.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, wow. That's a good question. Christine Crowder, James Williams, thank you for coming in. Gregory Brundage asked about the benefits of cauliflower. Charnel Anderson, you can reach out to me. I'll put my information up before we get out today, okay? But yeah, everybody says both are fine.
All praise due to Allah. I think I was in like a bad area at the time. Okay.
Yeah. Everybody says that. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. While you want to touch on that cauliflower?
I don't actually know all of the benefits and the properties that are in that particular vegetable itself. Uh,
Well, I
but
can
I do.
definitely say this. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that, as I continue to study, I think some of you have heard me say this before, specifics about the foods that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has mentioned and how to eat to live. These are the cream of the crop. They are the best vegetables, the best fruits, the best foods that we can eat on the planet. And so when he mentions the cauliflower, there's a lot of talk about the darker foods being the best when it comes to nutrients. And I would agree with that in general. But cauliflower is such a great food. It has wonderful it has wonderful phytonutrients, meaning nutrients that come from the color of the food. It's high in vitamin C, high in fiber. It has so many nutrients like selenium and zinc and potassium and salt, sodium, and other things that help replenish the body's nutrients that we lose in our everyday activity. And so those are just some of the things. You all look out. My book is in the process of being produced. And so there's going to be some information that I put in there on the specifics of some of these foods. So check it out when it comes out. But cauliflower, I just reiterate that any food that you hear the Honorable Elijah Muhammad mentioning how to eat to live, especially ones that he mentions over and over again, if you don't have those in your diet on an everyday basis, that's a mistake. All right, my sister, we're going to 75 and 78. So let's see what this is. 75 is, should we eat until we feel full or only one time, one plate during the prescribed times? And then 78 is, I try to eat one meal at 1 or 2 p.m. daily. What are your thoughts? I thought those were good questions.
My answer to that question, should we eat until we're full? I would say no. And the reason why I say that is because many of us have the experience of eating multiple meals a day, right?
Yes.
We eat multiple meals a day, 4, 5, 6 times a day, and we're eating until we can't eat anymore. We've stuffed ourselves, right?
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
now our stomachs are stretched out. So if you have kind of like the mindset of, oh, I'm just going to eat once a day, but I'm going to eat until I feel full. Well, when you're first starting out, you're going to feel hungry, right? And so because you haven't eaten all day, if this is your one meal a day and this is the first day you've done it, and your stomach is used to being stretched out, it's used to consuming so much food. If you're eating as much as you can to kind of make up for not eating 3, 4, 5 times a day, then you're going to be doing a disservice now.
That's right.
So you have to allow, I feel, we, especially in America, because we overeat all the time, we overindulge all the time. And I know that the messenger talks about it. I believe it's in chapter 14 where he speaks directly to our overindulgence. And so, really in truth, I think that once your stomach starts to shrink, then you can eat in a better quantity or portion because your stomach isn't stretched out.
Yes. And in addition to that, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did say in book 2 that we should eat until we're full and then don't eat again until you are hungry. And to my sister's point, some of us are so malnutritious, and then some of us are so used to eating the wrong types of foods that we will get full and then get a hunger pain right afterwards. And so we have to make sure that we get to know, pay attention, and do the type of investigation so that we understand ourselves. If you put a quality meal on the table and you eat quite a bit of food, if you are getting hunger pains or so-called you're having these cravings for things, then we have to evaluate, is that true hunger? Is
Right.
that something emotional that's going on? Or have you just allowed yourself to give into wants and desires, and now you're calling it a physical craving when it's really an emotional and a desire craving that you give into a lot? This is something that I work with anybody and everybody that comes to me. And by the way, those of you who are asking to contact me personally, my information is scrolling at the bottom. So yes, you can reach out. I do consultations, so please reach out and let me know. But anytime I work with somebody, the first thing we do is start to evaluate where you are. What are your actual facts, right? Because you can never base yourself on what somebody else is doing or what you heard about somebody, what you heard on YouTube, or what you heard this doctor say about whatever. You have to evaluate where you are, what you are doing, why you are doing what you're doing. What are your results? So if you're sick and you're overweight and you have no energy, those are your signs that something is tremendously wrong. And so that's what we have to do. Let's get actual facts. Let's start looking at the facts on why you can sit down and eat a full meal and then you find yourself in some ice cream or some cake or something else later on that evening, something chewy, something crunchy, something salty, something bready. These things mean different things. They have not made snack foods and all these things up and down the rows in your grocery store by happenstance. It's high science. When you go into a grocery store, it is high science. And that's why you have more areas where you can get bad things than you do areas where you get good things, because it's high science. And to attract you to those things, for you to start calling it a craving, for you to start saying my body is calling for this, you have been tricked here. And so we have to be able to know that about yourself and be able to start to do the things that allow you to take that control back.
I think you made some excellent points. And I was going to add on and just say, when I would visit the minister at the palace at his home in Chicago, and I would sit and dine with the minister, right there we would have bean soup or lentil soup, then a salad, and then we would go on to have the main meal, which would be usually like a brown rice, two different vegetables, and then some sort of protein like salmon. And then the last thing would be, a small dessert and then coffee. Mm-hmm. So I think that we can't get wrapped up on, is it this size? Is it that size? Right. But you want to make sure that you try to get a very balanced meal, and that so that you can get all of the nutrients that you need. But I definitely feel once we are first starting this fasting process, and we have been of the mindset of eating all times a day and just overindulging in sweets and candy and, like you said, the salt, the sugar and things like that, we have to be very mindful. Are we tricking ourselves? Is it really desire to just keep consuming? So that was just an excellent point.
Yes,
I love that question.
Yeah, I mean, it's some wonderful questions. And look, brothers and sisters, I don't mean to offend anybody, but we're going to try to finish these questions that we came on here to answer. And I'm going to go through here, and any of you that have asked questions that we haven't answered or we're not going to get to in what we're talking about, I'm going to make notes and we're going to come back to those. We really want to try to get through these questions, because those questions from Saviours Day were just so profound. We decided that we wanted to go through them because we think they're going to really help people apply how to live, right? And so the second part of that question was somebody asked about eating, I think it was like one or two in a day. What were our thoughts? Well, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, a lot of people get this confused. They say that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said eat between 4 to 6. He didn't say that. Only. He said that in book 1. In book 1, he said from 4 to 6. And then in book 2, he said 4 or 6. But whatever our conclusion is of that information, what we also have to take in consideration is that he said, if you can't eat at this time, try to eat at the same time every day. right? And what I have learned from people that have sat with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and people that have sat with the minister is that the meals, and Sister Dr. Mariam can just come back in a couple of seconds and tell us what her experience was. But I've never heard anybody tell me that the meal was over in 2 hours, because the minister's teaching or the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was teaching, and there were questions being asked. And so sometimes people were so enthralled in the conversation, they weren't even eating. And so the meals take a long time. And some people will say, well, that's not an average everyday thing. True. But I can personally say that my meals hardly ever are eaten within a 2 hour period, because typically I'll start with some fruit or a smoothie, and I'm typically not going to eat for an hour after that. And then when we go into the other part of the meal, when my wife and I, or if we're with other people, that takes a while, because I try to take my time and chew my food. I try to take my time and enjoy my food. We have agreed, my wife and I, since Saviours Day, to do something that we had done for a while and kind of fallen away, and that is to leave the cell phone off the table, try to have some good conversation. So that takes time. And I don't know to tell you what is the answer on how long a meal should take. But what I will tell you is that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad makes the point in book 2 about chewing your food well. And we know that it is our way to not have a bunch of television and a bunch of madness on. The table time at dinner time should be the interaction with the family, the learning about how each other's day has gone, and what it is that we have planned for our future, and how we may be making mistakes that somebody else at the table can help you with, and just to share ideas and be family oriented. So we should really get away from making the mealtime a quick thing. Oh, everybody's, what'd you say, Mama? We got to get away from that. Yeah. So what was your experience, sister, when you were with the minister at his dinner table?
Oh, it was always a meal that was over 2 hours, like easy, because like you said, he would be teaching and giving lectures and, obviously informally, but it was always a time where, like you said, phones are off, there are no distractions, and you're really engaged in conversation about family and, just the nation and nation building. And I definitely feel like we've gotten away from that.
Yes.
I definitely see that, even, in my own home, and not even, to put my family on blast or anything like that. But it's something that, I was reading Closing the Gap, and I was just thinking about how the minister was talking about the messenger and how he would act at the dinner table and, crack a smile or a small little joke and things like that. And I was just like, man, we really don't sit down and have dinner anymore as a family without the TV, without the phone being on, without scrolling on IG or social media or something like that. And, even in med school and, getting myself prepared for residency, they tell you all the time, like, you eat when you can and you scarf it all down. And I remember a physician who is one of my mentors. She said, man, you eat really slow. She was like, that's because you haven't gone to residency. You'll learn how to eat fast. And I was just like, that's not something that you should desire, even try to get to the point of being, I can eat my food in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Because how are you able to get the nutrients that is supposed to be coming from your food if you're trying to scarf it down?
Come on,
so, right. So we just have to do better. We got to get back to the basics,
That's right. I think we answered about 4 questions right there, sister. We did answer 81 and 82.
All praises due to Allah.
Yeah. So I think this next set of questions, I think are very, very important as well. Very, very applicable questions, right? 83, Sister Zeta asked in the chat, I wish Swiss chard acceptable to eat? And then another person asked, how do we evaluate the varieties of foods available now that the messenger didn't mention, like avocado, quinoa, chard, etc.? Excellent question. I think that's extremely important. I know somebody else in the questions mentioned that a little further down. So you want to do that one, or you want me to go first? How you want to handle that?
I'm gonna let you take the lead on that one, and then I'll add in.
Praise be to Allah. So my understanding, brothers and sisters, like I said earlier, what conclusions I come to are based on my study, based on my experience. I can never say what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad meant. I can never say, of course, what I think he meant, because on something that he didn't put in a book. But what I will say is that when he mentioned that all fruits are good for us, I consider avocado a fruit. So I would definitely say that avocado is included in what he says in the book. I eat avocados on a regular basis. And so why did I start there? Because I think it's important, because everybody that asks a question about a specific food that was not mentioned in How to Eat to Live, I think that is very important. Why? Because he said himself, if there's something that you want to know, or there's a question that you have and you don't see it in this book, write me and ask me. So there it is. He was willing to try to answer questions and deal with things that weren't in the book. But I think today, in the reality of having so much information out on the internet, it's difficult to find those answers, because, again, like I said earlier, you don't know what information is quality, what information is not. And so what I try to do is take my experience, take my knowledge, take my experimentation and my research on what certain foods have, and then the classes of foods. So when you're talking about quinoa, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us that we shouldn't eat any grains outside of wheat. And then he talked specifically about how the wheat should be processed, right? He told those of us who don't work physically demanding jobs not to eat rye. And so when people eat oatmeal and eat all these other barley and all these other things, that's not what his instruction is. And then when it comes to something like quinoa, my understanding is that quinoa is not a grain. It is more like, it's not in the rice family, but it would be more like a rice than it would really be a grain. And so I eat quinoa from time to time because of the nutritional value that it has. And my understanding is it's definitely not, again, in the grain family, so it wouldn't be a difficult thing for us to digest. So that's the answer for the quinoa, the avocado. When it comes to Swiss chard, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad makes a very distinct statement in Book 2 about green foods. And here it is. Wow, I just went right to the page. Praise be to Allah. So he says, Book 2, page 176, but do not eat leaf vegetable, such as collard greens, which some of us have taken for our diet. Do not eat a lot of green vegetables anyway. Eat the white heads of vegetables, such as cauliflower. There's that word again, my brother. And white heads of cabbage. Eat that type of food. You can eat the roots of turnips, but do not eat the salad leaves. So the only green leafy vegetable food that I eat, based on the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's instruction, is occasionally spinach. My wife cooks a wonderful spinach dish in a lot of different ways, and I'll eat that sometimes. But green leafy vegetables, all of them, I'm talking about lettuce, all of the greens, kale, none of that do I eat. He specifically mentioned kale and for us not to eat it. So that would be my answer on those particular foods. Now, I have had some Mexicans, some Latinas or some Latinos reach out to me, and they wanted me to help put a program together. And so I've had to do some research on some of the foods that are specific to some of the islands and some of the other countries, like jicama, and I can't think of it right off the top of my head, but some of the other foods that are kind of ethnic foods. And so if you have those specific type questions, send them to me and I'll do the best I can to check those out and let you know in general, or we'll cover it in the next show. But there definitely are some foods that people eat in other parts of the world and in a lot of other cultural ways that if you do enough research, you can put them in certain classes of food, like I mentioned earlier. And if those classes of foods are the type of foods that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad agrees with, or has already given us some other things that we can eat in those classes, then I usually will say that those are probably pretty good. such as the question, I think it was either a week or two ago, that somebody asked me about the nightshades. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad mentions we can eat tomatoes. He mentioned that we can eat eggplant, and he mentions the potato, of course, only being in the frigid zones, but all those are considered nightshade foods. And so if he says we can eat it, I'm going with it. Anything else, my sister?
It makes me think about my time in Cuba and how, fruits and vegetables and things like that are very seasonal. And sometimes, you have tomatoes that are abundant and then sometimes you don't. And then like we have an avocado season and things like that. So I definitely think that giving the audience and the listeners the rationale on how you understand and process the information. Like, okay, for example, in Cuba, we have bok choy, I believe is how it's pronounced.
Yes.
Which I believe falls under like the cabbage family. So, I mean, having that kind of understanding and information, you're able to really rationalize, okay, is this something that is in accordance with how to eat to live and what the messenger has taught us? Because the brother or the sister who asked the question, some of the things or the foods that are coming or that we know about or that are in certain areas of the world or the globe, they aren't in the U.S. and so they weren't spoken about in How to Eat to Live. So, yep.
Yeah, excellent points. Brother Dean Muhammad, I think, brings up a very good point based on our last discussion about the eating times, right? He says, consider that 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. could generally speaking, roughly correspond to eating between the prayer times of Asr and Maghrib. Even consider that sunlight may have a factor on our digestive system. Good, excellent point. Then he puts an article down here about sun exposure. That's an excellent point, Brother Dean. What I do know is that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad suggesting 4 to 6 or 4 or 6 is definitely associated with the decline of the sun. The sun, of course, reaches its peak around 3 o'clock, I believe, in most places of the world. And then that's the decline. And so our bodies are in rhythm with the rotation of the earth around the sun. And so when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is telling us to do these things, stay on the rhythm, eat about the same time every day, he's telling us to treat our bodies just like the earth is treating the sun, because the sun is so important for its rotation and its health, right? And so that 3 o'clock time is very, very important to the rhythm of our body, because at the same time, the declining of the sun starts to cause the human body to start to relax some. It's the rising of the sun in the morning. And of course, it's not the rising of the sun, it's the rotation of the earth. But my point is, at that rising of the sun in the morning, that's when the circadian rhythm of the human body is starting to perk up, right? And that's why the Holy Quran mentions over and over and over that the day is for work and the night is for rest. And so when people have jobs and they're working at night and they're doing the midnight shift and all those type of things, it's usually why they usually have a lot of issues, right? Doesn't mean that they're bad issues, but they're definitely going to have some issues because they're not in rhythm. And so I thought that was an excellent point I just wanted to address, brother, because when we're talking about why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the things that he said, we'll be studying those things for the next however long and still trying to learn what this man's knowledge base was in the 30s and 40s, just the same as the minister mentioning a few weeks ago about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaching him about the billions of vitamins that come from the sun. Don't ask me what that meant, because I'll be studying for years to just try to figure it out. So anything else, sister?
No, sir. You did amazing.
Praise be to Allah. Okay, so let's go to the next question. It look like we might get some questions answered tonight, huh?
Sir, that's the intention.
Right.
What number are we at right now?
We just did 83 and 87, so we're on 90 and 91.
Yes, sir. So 90 says, what can be done if one isn't able to eat all of a complete meal within a 2-hour period? And then 91 says, Assalamu alaikum, what criteria should we use for foods that are not mentioned? I think we did this. We didn't
We
cover
mentioned
this.
both of those. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yes,
how to
yes,
eat to
yes.
live, such as foods from another country. Yep. We already did that. Okay. So
Okay.
let's
All right.
go on to
92. We got that one too.
I think we're at
Yeah.
95 now.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum, happy Saviours Day. Can eating one meal a day be less effective if one is not thinking right? Absolutely. Absolutely. For the sister who asked this question,
Yes.
you definitely have to be thinking right, because honestly, if you're doing, I feel, and this is me personally, it is hard to get to do one meal a day or even any type of fasting if you're not in the right mindset, because you'll psych yourself out and act or feel as though you can't even get through it if your mind isn't right. So when we're talking about the fasting and the cleansing process, even if you are able to get through a fast or are able to do one meal a day, but then throughout the day you're not balancing it or nurturing what you're doing with putting in the right, being in the right environment, listening to the minister, the messenger, or feeding on things that are positive, that's going to grow you, then you're not really getting the full benefit of the fasting, because everything is in relation to one another, just like how the systems all work with each other in the body. And even though every system has its own individual function, they come together and work beautifully to make this whole being in this body work at its best capacity. So
right.
if you're feeding yourself right, but then you're not thinking right, then you're really not going to get the total benefit, because you're doing one without the other.
Well, I have nothing to add to that. Wonderful.
All praises to Allah.
Here's a good question that kind of correlates to what we were saying. Kenny X says, can you explain what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad meant about not eating fresh bread? Does that mean to toast your bread? Absolutely, my brother. He mentions in How to Eat to Live, I don't know what page, but he does say that you should toast your bread before you eat it, and it should be a very dark brown. And an experience that I have had on a couple of occasions as a young boy growing up, watching my mother make bread and also watching my grandmother make bread. They did whatever they did, put the ingredients in there, watching. You could literally sit there and watch that bread when it was raw before they put it in the oven, and you could see it actually growing. It was actually expanding because of whatever ingredients that she had in it, right? And when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad talks about eating fresh make bread, or what we call pancakes and things of that nature.
Hot cakes and all
hot cakes, right? Yeah.
Ooh.
That's always what I go to. I mean, I can't say exactly what he meant, but based on those experiences, it kind of tells me when he's talking about how it expands in the stomach when you eat freshly made bread or things that are not cooked well enough, they expand in the stomach and can cause ulcers and everything. So yes, I definitely don't eat bread unless it's toasted. The majority of the time, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I don't mess up sometimes too, because I'll grab a piece of bread and throw some sunflower butter and some jelly or some honey on there, eat it in a minute when I'm real hungry. So, but yes, we should. The right way to eat your bread should be toasted.
And that's really a hard one for me, because I love like breakfast. I'm I can honestly admittedly say that is a challenge for me, because I'm not really a pancake person, because it doesn't really taste quite done, but I am like a waffle and what are those things, French toast, like yeah. But the messenger tells us.
That's right. We ain't perfect either, brothers and sisters. Just because we are here talking about it and we have some experience, we are striving just like you all. Somebody is saying your voice is a little low.
Whose? Did they say whose? My voice is low?
Yes.
How about now? Is it better?
I don't know. Y'all let me know if you can hear us both clear. She sounds fine to me. So let us know, please. Okay, so what number are we on now? 92? No, we did 92.
We're on
95?
We just did 96, didn't we? No, we just did
95. 95 is what we just did.
Oh, okay. Got you. Okay. And then I have to. So 96 said,
Yeah, that's yours.
yeah, it was talking about Mother Tynetta said
Yes.
not to fast during our cycles. And I'm still trying to locate the video or the article in which she said that, because I want to be able to for sure, say that that is what Mother Tynetta said. I'm not sure of that one. So I'm gonna still do my homework on that one and come back to everyone
All right, so
so we can get
all the
actual
sisters,
facts.
all the sisters, go ahead and type a little message to Sister Dr. Mariam and say we want that answer next week.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll make sure I have it. Okay.
99. Okay, wait. There was another one. No, that's it. So we're on 99, right?
Yes, sir. So
Yeah.
99 says any suggestions for eating whole wheat? Any suggestions for eating whole wheat bread and gluten sensitivity?
I think Brother Tariq and I covered that. We talked
Yeah,
about
that's what.
that. Yeah.
Yep, you did. Okay, so now question number 101. When doing one meal every 3 days, do I need to intake a certain amount of calories? I think that really depends on the person, because what we as physicians would prescribe to someone who is 5'5" versus someone who's 6'1" may be very different. But you probably have way more experience in this with me. So
No, well, I would I would say the same thing, sister. I'm trying to think, do I know anybody personally that eats one meal every 3 days? I don't know anybody personally. And I think that it goes back to what we were mentioning earlier, right? I think it's an American ideology of thinking that you need to overindulge, right? Brother Warren's question earlier in the show asked, what about regeneration? And so when we start talking about the longer periods of time in between meals, the better your body will do. When you get to that meal, the Honorable Muhammad says, eat until you're full and don't eat again until you're hungry again. So that's based on us putting this first before the stomach, right? And so we have to be sure that when you are eating one meal every 2 days or one meal every 3 days, that you are getting enough nutrition to make your body have the energy that it takes to make it through whatever is going on in your day. But it doesn't mean that you have to put yourself on a caloric intake like this world talks about. The typical caloric intake that is suggested to an American person, I will just ask all of you on this call, all of you that are listening, have you ever seen a person that gets diabetes and goes to a traditional American doctor, and that doctor sends them to a dietitian? Do you ever see them get off of diabetes medicine? Do you ever see them solve the problem? Do you ever see people get off of blood pressure medications? Do you ever see people truly lose weight and maintain weight loss by following the suggestions of the traditional medical society? I would say I haven't seen it. That is supposedly where the information on how many calories we're supposed to eat is coming from. So if they aren't producing any benefits with their information, then we definitely, when we start reading something different, something new, like this man puts in this book, we have to produce and start to apply a different reality, a different paradigm, right? And so again, I can't say that I have any specific knowledge on what and how much a person should eat if they're eating every 3 days. But what I will say is this, that I have personally challenged myself, I should use, in eating one meal a day, even when I'm doing something like if I'm going to be working on the farm for a few days or working around my house, sometimes out in the yard, sometimes I'm doing stuff in the house where I'm doing something that's pretty physically demanding. I have proven the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's words to be true in me. And he said those that are doing very laborious jobs shouldn't eat one meal every 2 days or one meal every 3 days. Because sometimes the physical nature of what it is that you need to handle, what it is that your life is producing, you can't keep up with that with eating that less or that little. And I have gotten myself into a little like nothing major as a problem, but definitely getting to a point where like, dang, I can't even barely feel like I can walk anymore. I can't even make it up these steps. Or I know I can't pick up another one of these things. I can't do anything else because I'm just so out of energy because I was trying to do something pretty physically laborious and I was just eating one meal every other day. And so that would just be my personal experience and what I would say to that answer. But I think that's an excellent question. And I think, again, that is one of those type of things where we have to introspect, self-reflect, self-analyze, and then correct whatever the problem is. If you can't make it to that third day because of whatever physical nature you're going through, then maybe you need to go back to one meal every 2 days. So, and I'm not saying to do that. I'm just saying that we need to evaluate that, right? If you're having a lot of problems, energy problems, passing out, whatever the case may be, it may be too little nutrition.
Right. That's a good point. I think that was all of the questions that we had.
What about 107? Let me see. If that's it, that's beautiful. That means we got them all. Oh, so Vicky Muhammad asks, that's the wrong question. My bad.
I have to 101 based off of what we discussed earlier.
Right. There's one more on here. 107. Is it okay to eat navy bean soup as your meal? Absolutely. I would say
the same thing. Yes, sir.
yes, ma'am.
I know a sister who was in Atlanta, and she told me that she was eating bean soup and salad, and she had put herself on a strict kind of a diet because she was struggling with her weight. And she said that all she ate was bean soup and salad. I guess, her whole wheat roll. I'm not sure about that one, but she spoke about bean soup and salad, and she's healthy, and she was able to lose a substantial amount of weight. So yeah, why wouldn't bean soup be sufficient? You might have to have 2 bowls though, if you're gonna if you're trying to get full, but definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I can honestly say from my own testimony that I definitely have eaten nothing but bean soup a couple of times, and as I've said before, I mean, I don't know a food that I've ever eaten after experimenting with myself that gives more energy than bean soup. So I love to have it. I try to have it every day. And like Brother Tariq said, don't sleep that navy bean.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think from the other day, Mark Anderson Muhammad asked a question about alkaline water. And so I did put it on my list of things to answer because he did ask it in the show. And we said we would get to it another time. So I'm just going to deal with that pretty quickly. And then what about you want to try to answer the rest of the questions from today in our last 23 minutes? You have time, Sister Doctor?
I think we can try to do it. I didn't even see the answers that was in the chat.
Right. But he asked about alkaline water. And I have dealt with this on a number of times in my other shows. But just to quickly answer your question, brother, the body does not live in an alkaline state. I don't care how many times people quote Dr. Sebi, and this is no shade on Dr. Sebi. I love that man. He taught me a lot. But I don't care how many times they quote Dr. Sebi or any other person. The body does not live in an alkaline state. The body lives in its optimal in the neutral state. That is what we are trying to do every day with the systems of the body that we know nothing about. The kidneys, the stomach and the GI system, the lungs, and the blood are all working to keep the body at the around 7.4. Some people are 7.4 something. Some people might be the other way. But that's approximately where all of us live. And as I've said before, I worked in the ICU. I worked in the emergency room. And in my hospital days, I was the doctor that everybody called when they needed to do an arterial stick to get ABG, which is arterial blood gas. That's the most specific way to tell what pH a person is living at. I've seen people at 7.5, damn near dead. I've seen people at 7.3, damn near dead or dying. And so that's how strict Allah has made this body. That's how beautiful, fine-tuned he has made these systems. We can't go too far out of what it is that he's made right. And so that 7.4 is what we consider neutral. That 7.4 is where we're trying to stay all the time. And so when people start talking about drinking water that's 9, 10, 11 pH, that's way outside of where you should be, right? If this is where we live right here at at 7.4, then when you start going up into 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all the way up to 14 is the highest, that's when you're getting into alkaline, right? If you start going down 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you're becoming more acidic, right? So anything that happens in the body, if you put something very alkaline, then your body has to hold on to acid to do what? Bring it back to 7.4. If you put something very acidic in the body, like stomach acid, then you have to produce or hold on to some alkalinic things to bring it what? Back to 7.4. So when you drink water that has a high alkaline value, what you're really doing is pushing the body into an acidic state because it has to hold on to acid in order to balance. Does that mean that your blood is acidic? No, but it means that you're holding on to acidic things in the human body. That's mostly waste products. And so you wind up holding on to things that should be getting eliminated from the body. And so from my personal evaluation and assessment and research, drinking alkaline water is a trick. People are making a lot of money, but I don't see how it can do the body good. And let me say this, for anybody listening that may have a testimony that I've drank or I have drunk alkaline water, it made me feel better. Alkaline water helped me with this. I have no reason to tell you that what you're saying is not true. I'm just saying from a scientific perspective, that's my explanation. So I pray I answered your question, brother. Please let me know. I don't know what happened. There she is. She's back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened either. I apologize.
No problem. No problem. Etta Purcell asked, do you recommend getting heart scans? And I would say it depends. Yes. If a person has a serious enough problem, like Dr. Mariam and I both in our study in medicine, we learn there are certain things that make you think something wrong with the heart. And so when we're examining a person, when we're checking a person, doing our physical exam, there are things that we could say, you know what, I think this person's heart is weak. And so, yes, we may do a heart ultrasound. We might do a heart scan where they do the injection and put the fluid in. The dye in your vein so that we can see how it's actually working. So, yes, I do recommend heart scans depending on the condition of the person. I want to make things very clear that if we can start you on a regimen, if we can start you on doing some positive things and you don't have to get the scan, I've always, of course, try to avoid a procedure if it's not necessary. But even if you have to get a scan and you have to get the dye and all that kind of stuff, I have put together programs for people to detox from all those things that they put in you. So I'm not specifically saying you, Miss Purcell, but I'm talking just in general to anybody. If you wind up having to need something in the medical community, don't be mad at yourself. Don't get down on yourself. If it's something that you need before you get on your journey, or if it's something that you need on your journey, it's okay. If you're on medications, it's okay. Let's just not be satisfied with staying there. Let's get to working. And I can say that Miss Etta Purcell Hope is definitely doing some things to improve her health. Okay. Hope you didn't mind me saying that, Miss Purcell Hope. Sister, I think you made this comment. This brother says, define peptides and what foods are high in peptides.
You said you think that I said
I
this?
don't remember. Did you say something about peptides or did you say proteins?
No, I didn't.
You didn't? Okay. Well,
what was the question that he asked?
He asked, define peptides and what foods are high in peptides. I don't necessarily Nah, I don't remember us mentioning that, but peptides are typically precursors to a lot of different things in the body, usually protein type things. But peptides are also what a lot of enzymes in the body are made from. And so, like, you'll have what we call a peptidase, right? A peptidase means something, anytime you have ASE at the end of the word, that's something that breaks down whatever the precursor to that word is. So peptides are usually like a gathering of certain molecules and things in a body that serve a certain purpose, like the digestive enzymes that we make from the pancreas are considered peptides. And so just in general, that's what they are, what foods are high in peptides. Honestly, right off the top of my head, I couldn't say. What you think, sister? Any foods you can think of that have peptides?
Not right off the top of my
Yeah, me
head.
either.
But
Gotta go do some research.
but you were talking about, just peptides as being kind of like these short chains of, amino acids and things like that. But I don't, uh, yeah, I don't remember us asking uh, a question about that. But I would think because peptides make proteins and proteins can be found in like meats and eggs and milks and things like that, then that's where you would find things that are high in peptides. That's what I'm
Yeah.
deducing.
Yes, ma'am. Probably in a lot of foods, but I'd have to do some research to get more specific. Catherine Muhammad makes a good question. I bear witness to your stomach shrinking the more you fast. Personally, for me, my taste buds also have changed. Don't like sweets as much or other unhealthy foods I used to crave. Yeah,
All praise is due to Allah.
that's right. Yeah, and I can bear witness to that as well because I know my wife and I talk all the time about, like, sometimes when we're traveling or something and we'll stop and might grab some junk food and take a couple bites, we're like, man, this is nasty. I throw stuff out the window because I'm like, I don't even know why I bought that crap anyway. Don't have any taste for it anymore. Once you start eating quality foods and you start following how to eat to live, all you really want is quality foods.
Yes, that is so true.
Yes.
I would tell myself, I said, man, would I give this to the minister? I'd be like,
Yeah.
ooh,
Yeah.
if I can't give it to him, I probably shouldn't be giving it to myself either.
That's right. That's a good one. That's a good one. Damon X Johnson says, what color should raw milk be? Typically kind of yellowish, kind of a yellow tinge to the whiteness of milk, right? Because fats are yellowish. So that would be my answer. Okay, so how about you with this one? Darlene Muhammad says, please talk about substitute meats. Dr. Farrakhan, are you still there?
I'm here. Substitute meats.
Yeah, somebody asked us to discuss substitute meats.
I don't eat substitute meat. You're talking about like vegan, like
I think that's what
soy
she
and
mentioned.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the messenger told us to stay away from soy, and that's what you find in a lot of substitute meats. So I don't eat substitute meats. I've never been a vegetarian. I am someone who eats a lot of fish, though, like a lot of salmon. And I know that probably the best substitution to a meat is you creating vegetable or like plant-based meat substitute. So like in the nation, people are making like bean burgers and broccoli burgers and things like that, where it kind of has a similar texture and you can still have a burger, but it's made out of vegetables and you didn't put any soy in it. But for me, even growing up in my mother's household, what we would try to do is, because we do eat meat, we would try to eat halal.
Yes, ma'am. I would say that I agree with you. That I would say that research that I've done, 90% of the substitute meats on the market are absolutely detrimental to your health because, as she said, most of them have soy, but some of the other ones just have pea proteins and other things that the Honorable Muhammad told us not to eat. There was one company that I ate. And if you all get a chance, go to the Ultimate Wellness Group on IG, Instagram, and check out my post I did a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember the name of the company right now, but it was a Chipotle sausage that was made from wheat gluten. And the thing that you have to be careful about, of course, number one is what we're talking about. Make sure you know what the ingredients of these substitute meats are. And if it's something that goes against what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, you should stay away from it, because he is and does have the premier lifestyle plan. But the second thing that I will say, if you're eating substitute meats and substitute foods in general, because he said substitute foods are causing a detriment to our health. Paraphrasing, because I can't remember the page, but he talked about substitute foods in his book, about them not being good for us. The thing that I will warn you about is to make sure you are reading the ingredient list on your substitute foods regularly, because my experience with a lot of different companies, with a lot of different brands of foods and types of foods, is that they will switch things up on you in a heartbeat. If a company is trying to substitute this and put a chemical in that place, or add a chemical, or add some cheaper stuff, they're not going to warn you about it. That's something that you have to do your own research and read those labels on a regular basis, because that food that I'm discussing, I have eaten for years. And early this year, my wife and I went and bought it one day, and the label had changed. And she and I just kind of looked at each other like, we better read these ingredients. We read the ingredients, and there was some new stuff that they put in there. And I already knew when I read it, I said, it's something I'm not sure about. So we did a little research, called the company. I don't eat them anymore, because I refuse to put stuff like my sister just said. I refuse to put things in my body. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect 100%, but on a regular everyday basis, you come sit at my table, it's going to look like the reality of what Donald Elijah Muhammad said in this book. Shay Ijaz, thank you for that shout out, my sister. I appreciate it. Let me see if there are any other questions from tonight. I've answered this before, sister. Let me see what you think about this. Are colonics good for getting rid of waste in the digestive system, along with taking probiotics?
No. And the reason why I say that is because you're going to get rid of all of the good bacteria that's in your body as well. So, I mean, I think that a lot of these things that are kind of marketed to us are to make profit, and not really, like, we have to remember that the body has the ability to heal itself. It is a checks and balances type of system. So if, like, for example, go for a run, go for a walk. If you want to get your digestive system really moving, if you want to, you know what I'm saying? If you want to eliminate waste, go for a walk every day after your meal, or go for a run, and you'll get your digestive system moving, and it's natural. Because there's harm when you're introducing these probes and different things in your body. Now, it's different if you are impacted. You know what I'm saying? If you're dealing with a patient who's impacted, or you have not been able to, but even still, there's natural ways to deal with, and someone being impacted. So that's the answer to my question. I'm sorry.
No, excellent question, because I would agree with you that, number one, if you're having colon problems, I don't believe that you should stick a tube under an exit-only hole, right? That the anus is meant to regulate what's coming out. There's nothing normal about pushing water up into the colon. I think that's a completely abnormal thing to do. But what is in How to Eat to Live, if we follow this, is the absolute colon cleanse. Number one, navy beans are high in fiber. Number two, the type of vegetables that he suggests to us are the ones that have the highest content of fiber. And then number three, he suggests fruit. If you put these things in your diet on a regular basis and do what Sister Dr. Mariam just said, you will not have any bowel problems. You'll be going to the bathroom the same number of times you eat.
Very regularly.
Right? When I eat one meal a day, I was going to the bathroom every morning. Now that I eat one meal every other day, I go to the bathroom the morning after I eat. And the other day, I don't go to the bathroom. My GI system is regular. And I know that because I have done the research. What is the research? Look in the toilet after you finish eating. And there's evidence of the food that you ate yesterday. There's always some evidence of something that you ate, right? And that's how you know how long it's taking your food to come out of your system. And when you get to a point where your bowel movements are regular like that, the food should be finished being digested, absorbed, and ready to come out of us in a 24-hour period. That's scientific. John Elijah Rama says that in the book, right? I'm paraphrasing, but he says that in the book. And so we should be able to look in the toilet, do our research on what is happening with us, which will give us a lot of information on what it is that we need to do and how our body is working. But colonics, no. And I also don't really suggest probiotics either, because probiotics are I'm not saying that. Probiotics are the result of the good bacteria that is normally in the body. Even when your body is in bad shape, if you start putting the right things in it, it will produce that bacteria by itself. It's a trick for people to tell you that you need a probiotic. You need something from some store or out of some bottle, some concoction that somebody made to get your system back right. That's the biggest trick in the so-called alternative health field, right? And so let's stop falling for them. You follow how to live, everything in your body will work optimally. David X. Johnson. I'm going to drop this one on you, sister. He says, does the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan have a book of how to eat to live? Book 3.
No, sir. No, sir. Good
he might have one when he gets back, though.
It's
yeah. Okay. So
right.
David X. Johnson.
Yeah, right. Let's focus on book 1 and 2, though.
Hey, let's get right with book 1 and book 2. And when he comes back with book 3, we'll definitely be into that as well.
Hasn't that one yet, or at least I know I haven't.
Right. Sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds, are they permitted? And while we're waiting for that, Nafir Dar, yes, sir. This will be consistently every show that I do. It will be on YouTube and will be on the Ultimate Wellness Group on Facebook. You want to take that one, sister? Sunflower and pumpkin seeds. Okay, I don't know what happened with my sister, but my understanding is that pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds are permitted. I don't remember. I think somebody mentioned that the Honorable Muhammad mentioned something about seeds, but my research is that they don't have anti-nutrients and we are able to digest them. So I definitely eat both of those. Chanel Anderson, will feeding yourself the right foods help change your way of thinking without you knowing the teachings of the messenger? Absolutely. You know, there are all different type of ways that our teachings can help raise people, right? You don't necessarily have to, teach a person to pray or teach a person this and that. There's so many different things in our lives that can help us know that the information that we got is from a greater source and is definitely benefiting our life. So I definitely would say yes. I know I have had quite a few people that I've worked with over the years that have come to me and told me that information that you gave me out of that book that you say you believe in, it worked. And so automatically, because of the way I describe it, like the way I do in these shows about how it was so much greater and it gave me so much more ability to help people than the books I read in medical school, they say, well, hey, what is that book? And let me read it. You see what I'm saying? So that is a lot of what I think helps people is by our actions and our activity, right? This is Kira. As my husband would say, don't sleep on the Navy bean. That's right. AG baby girl, 1991. If you drink a smoothie, is it considered eating? Yes, that is food. That is actually, when you do a smoothie, if it has milk in it, it's not a lot of digestion, but it is a load of nutrients that are going in the body. All right, we're coming to the end of the show, my brothers and sisters. Marcia Moore says, can alkaline water cause kidney stones? I am not sure. I don't know. I know meats and things of that nature can, but not sure about alkaline water. Not sure. Eugenia Marie says, during the winter time when cows primarily eat hay, the milk tends to be white. Eating fresh green grass is what causes the milk to have a yellowish tint. Well, there you go. Eggplant is a good meat substitute. Yeah, thank you, Sister Catherine. Field roast. Yeah, that was what I was talking about, sisters. Thank you, Sister Daisy and Sister Tiffany. Yeah, it was field roast. And their ingredients changed, so I don't eat it anymore. But that used to be my favorite meat substitute. Even though I'm just like Sister Dr. Mariam, I still eat meat, mostly fish, but not a lot. I don't eat meat on any consistent basis, but I do eat fish. Raw milk to boil or not to boil? Yes, I would boil it unless you are taking care of the cows yourself and you know that they have no infections and no things that cause any problems to your body. But if you're not doing it yourself, I suggest flash pasteurizing it, and that would be 3 minutes at 160 degrees and then rapidly cool it. That doesn't destroy the nutrients in them. Thank you. Thank you, Gregory Bundage. I appreciate and your wonderful question. All right, this last question from my man Gregory Brundage, and I thank you all for coming tonight. He said, "What is your thoughts on focus and concentration after changing to How to Eat to Live diet?" Bro, I've spoken to that before. My concentration went through the roof. When I was first turned on to How to Eat to Live, I tell the story that I was with a woman. The examining table, I always would sit on one side of the examining table and the patient would sit on the other side of the examining table. So she put all her medications up on the examining table. I was talking to her like 14, 15, 16 medications. I was telling her what I thought we should do to first to get off some of this medication. Next thing I know, she was over there just knocked out. And I was angry, right? And then I found myself coming up out of a nap. And that night when I went home, it looked like How to Eat to Live was calling me out of the bookshelf. And so I started reading it. First 30 pages blew my mind. Didn't believe that it was true. Didn't believe that this man could know more than I did after all the years I went to school. Started trying to prove him wrong, and he proved me wrong. At that time in my life, I was eating 5 meals a day because that was what we were teaching. That was supposedly what was healthy. And when I switched to 1 meal a day, my stamina went up, my strength went up, my mental clarity, my mental ability to focus and stay up and read and study like I needed to at that time in my life. I mean, it went out to like past the clouds. And then when I went from 1 meal a day to 1 meal every other day in 2015, it got even better. Like I said earlier, there's sometimes where I may extend myself too much and get tired, but typically I have no problems with energy, mental focus on point, thinking, just everything works so much better when you are eating and following the guidelines in this book. I bear witness to that 1,000%. And as my sister down here says, you had a gut and the brain are connected. Yanabai Muhammad said that in How to Eat to Live, that both of those systems work very close together. Treat one good, you treat the other one good. If you treat one bad, you treat the other one bad. And so it definitely has been a definite increase and a great benefit to me in my life. And that is why I felt so compelled to make sure that we answered you all's questions, to make sure that we took our time to give you all what you need to practice what is in this book a little bit better. And all of you that have listened over the last few weeks since Saviours Day, and some of you are reaching out to me, telling me that we inspired you to want to get back on your dean and follow I Just Live. I'm just thankful to the God we serve that I can be that conduit, because that's why I do what I do, right? To make sure that every time you all come to this show that you get some news that you can use. And so I pray that you understand that in a day and a time like we live in, you cannot have good health unless you work hard. And so I think what we're going to do next week is come back and have the final show with the three of us, Brother Tariq Muhammad, Sister Dr. Mariam, and myself. And we're going to just finalize and talk about some of our testimonies with How to Eat to Live and talk about what we're going to try to do going into the future. And then we'll start moving into other subjects. All right. So thank you all. I pray that you have a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful rest of your week. And until the next time, I pray that you have much peace in these days and times. Peace.